Hello, my name is Dan Johnson and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest Unit box set, and that is called Unit Era's Hostile Universe. After collecting the previous 8 series of Unit that featured characters like River Song, we had Unit Nemesis, which was a big saga of stories against the villains called the Vulprine, I think. So today they start something new with the idea of going through Unit eras throughout history and telling stories individually with different recognizable characters such as the Brigadier. What's most important to me when this box set was announced, one, that it wasn't coming to CD, which I think was a bit of a shame, because there's some stories here that I really would have loved to have added to the collection, and it would have been great if they were given individual arts as well, but perhaps that wasn't to be, and if that was the cost of having a box set with this many people in it, then I'm okay with that. But the other thing was that we're getting a story from 2023, so the most modern era of Doctor Who. Well, technically they don't have the shooty stuff, but they have the giggle included as part of their license now, which means they can tell stories with Mel and the Vlinks, and I really love the Vlinks, but we'll get to that later. With this box set, I did listen to them in a different order than they are provided to us. I actually started off with probably my favourite episode and went down the list. I didn't intend to do that, but it ended up being like that. And I think as I do my review today, I think you'll be able to tell what order I listened to these stories. By the way, there's going to be some light spoilers within this episode, nothing major. I'm not going to be spoiling massive plot points, but I am kind of going to be giving you the gist of certain elements in order to make my points. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but if you don't want to hear anything, I would suggest coming back once you've listened to the box set. Episode 1 is called Rise of the Valiant, and it is set in 2008 during the events of the Stolen Earth, which is of course the finale of Series 4. There are daleks everywhere, and this is from the Brigadier's perspective as he is in Peru. We also have Harry Sullivan and Colonel Mace, who is featured quite prominently earlier in Series 4 during the Sontaran two-parter. One thing that really concerned me about this episode was that we're kind of going to be running on the sidelines a little bit. And I suppose there's an element of that, but I felt that the way that they kind of interweaved the Series 4 finale with this story was really well done. And having these massive action set pieces, and you can imagine it coinciding with the events of that story, it was really exciting to listen to because it's something great for Doctor Who continuity. And I do love Doctor Who continuity. There is something in this story that I won't spoil, but it came as quite a surprise. And I imagine many people would have had to have signed off on it in order for it to happen in the set. So this is a story soaked in continuity, and everything from the acting to the music creates a really thrilling story. Episode 2 is called The Indigo Child, and it takes place during 2017 when Kate is on the run from the Grand Serpent as Unit has been disbanded. She asks the help of Osgood to help her save a refugee from a new enemy. I really like the idea of this story with the sort of refugee angle. I do think the performances are really good. Ingrid Oliver sounds a little bit funny. Maybe she was unwell during this story, or there's something wrong with her mixing. I'm not sure what that's about. The trouble is, this is Unit during a time that is incredibly undocumented. And because of that, the writer kind of has to set a ton up. It has to set up an enemy. It has to set up this story that's supposed to be standalone. But also, this is Unit that needs a lot more explanation because there is no Unit. And there's a lot of hurdles that are in the way of this story. So it feels more like a pilot than it does feel like a one-off episode like the others are. So the writer's been given a little bit of a bad hand here, and it's a lot to establish in 54 minutes, and I think they do quite a good job of it. It just feels like this story falls a little bit to the wayside. Episode 3 is called The Life and Death of Private Eddie Wise, and this was a story with Sarah Jane trying to find a story, and she comes across a Unit soldier called Eddie Wise as he tries to deal with the knowledge of alien life being real and trying to fight them. Like on his first day, he fights Cybermen. It's completely mad, and it's interesting to get a perspective of somebody that is not the Doctor or a companion, but is just a regular guy, an extra, so to speak. And he's in the midst of a coup, trying to expose Unit and try and get some help with the way that Unit treats its soldiers. I really liked the way that they deal with this guy's PTSD, and the sound design I think helps that massively. There is these moments of flashbacks that are really intense. The trouble is, as the title suggests, I kind of know where this story's going because it has some key points that it's going to hit, because a lot of these kind of stories do hit those elements. And I hoped that it would surprise me towards the end, and I kind of wish it had a bit more of a kicker, because I think most of this is a really good story. The trouble is, when it gets to the end, I feel like it was kind of rushed, and I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought would happen. Episode 4 is called Dead Star, and it takes place in 2023, just after the defeat of the Toymaker. Unit Tower is under attack. There's something wrong with the Vlinks, and it's up to Mel, Dr. Ellis, the Vlinks, and Colonel Grover to defend the tower. Yeah, this is definitely my favourite. It's an excellent base under siege story. The Vlinks has so much to do, and I find his character so much more interesting, and I feel like Nicholas Briggs really wanted something like this, because he spent a long time doing those lines, well, the few lines that the Vlinks had, for there not really to be an explanation of what he is. And I think when I saw the giggle, I thought, oh, they'll come back round to that, like they'll explain it in the spin-off or something. That'll be ironed over in time, and that never really happened. I love how it has an effect on continuity. I think the villain is excellent, like really well done. I think Mel and Dr. Ellis's pairing is really lovely together, particularly Dr. Ellis. She has a lovely story within this episode. I've always been a really big fan of the Vlinks. I'm not entirely sure why. I suppose it's like the Mr. Smith effect, you know, from Sarah Jane Adventures. I kind of am really intrigued by the computer alien mix thing and whatever the hell the Vlinks is, and it was quite nice to see a story that added a lot more depth to that and the setting that we have during the 60th anniversary, particularly because there's not really a lot to gauge from the characters there, and it was lovely to get something that added a bit more context to stuff, as well as telling a really compelling, really interesting, action-packed, fun story. At the end of my videos, I always ask whether I was satisfied by a release, and today I am very satisfied. Dead Star particularly is my standout. I think it's excellent, and when I listened to that and then I listened to the Rise of the Valiant story, I was really happy with the money that I spent on this box set. The other two stories I think work quite well. Like I said, the Indigo Child I think has some weak points, but I can't blame them for that because it's a very tricky thing to do, and I hope at some stage we may get another box set that contains another story set within this time, and they can then elaborate on what they've shown in this set. That would be lovely. But it's definitely the weakest for me. But I had a lot of fun, and I love that Big Finish can fill in these little details, and a set like this adds a lot of variety to what you're listening to because each episode is so different. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like. Next week, or rather this week, we have the brand new Time War box set, which I've been very excited about, and I've been going back and listening to the previous Uncharted episodes in order to receive Branches, I think it's called, on Wednesday. Looking forward to that, and I hope to get the review out towards the end of next week. Or this week. Oh, it's so confusing this. But there's plenty more to come, so please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I shall see you soon. Goodbye.